A man came to a Zen master and said, "Teach me." The master served tea and kept pouring until the cup was overflowing. The student shouted, "It's overflowing." Zen master said, "Exactly, come back when you're empty." Come back when you're empty. Come back when you are ready to be that empty vessel. Come back when you're ready to be teachable, as one of my teachers used to say, I believe it was Edwin Gaines. She would often teach in her seminars and workshops. Are you teachable? Are you teachable? Are you open to let go of your hard held beliefs and just go, oh. Sometimes we have our stakes in the ground. And sometimes those are necessary, and sometimes those are tried and true over time because we have learned that that stake in the ground is the most loving way to be and to show up in the world. But no matter how much love and compassion you have that is attached to that stake in the ground, it's very possible that you could open up a little bit more and have even more love and compassion. It's just possible. Because we're always evolving, we're always growing. I wanted to take some time over the next few weeks. I won't be here next week. Jim Marino will be here. And but I want to look at the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes, as you know, in Matthew, just the basic teachings of Jesus, right? The old theology taught us what to do, gave us a checklist, all of those Old Testament lists of ways to show up in the world, the things you could do and couldn't do. Jesus came and gave us the new covenant and showed us a way to be. See how more open and expansive that is? Instead of a rigid teaching of literalism, Jesus brought us a way to breathe life into how we are feeling. There's so much room for expansion in that. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. When I'm looking at the Beatitudes, I also often go to Emmett Fox and his book, Sermon on the Mount. And one of my other go-tos is Elizabeth Sands Turner and Your Hope of Glory. She's a Unity minister. And Emmett Fox, I think he ended up being ordained in divine science. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom in heaven. Here in the very beginning, we have to take into account a point of great practical importance in the study of the Bible, namely that it is written in a peculiar idiom of its own. He goes on to say that the Bible is really a textbook of metaphysics, a manual for the growth of the soul, and it looks at all questions from this point of view. I remember as a child in Sunday school and sitting through the worship service that the Beatitudes still seemed very linear to me, and I just didn't always understand exactly. They just seemed counterintuitive to me, I guess. But when we look at it metaphysically, to be poor in spirit does not in the least mean the thing that we call poor-spirited nowadays. To be poor in spirit means to have emptied yourself of all desire, to exercise the personal self-will, to renounce preconceived notions. You see how that opens it up? To be poor in spirit, to be surrendered, to be resigned, to be teachable, to be teachable. And Elizabeth Sand Turner, let me see what she has to say here. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is the first of the 8 great statements called the Beatitudes. Each statement says we shall be blessed when we attain certain attitudes of mind. Eric Butterworth always says they're the B attitudes, not the Beatitudes, but the B attitude. To pay attention to what your attitude is. The poor in spirit are persons who relinquish their human concepts that they may learn from God. The intellect is marvelous indeed, yet if we are to attain divine wisdom, we must be humble. To be humble. To just simply be willing. To be willing to look at things in a little different way. To be open to not only your own thinking and expanding your own way of thinking, but to be able to listen to others in a way that you can listen expansively instead of being a closed circuit. From the Greek by Brisbane, this is another interpretation. Whole and complete are those who live with a sense of dependence and vulnerability. Does that one get it for you? Whole and complete are those who live with a sense of dependence. I think I would have to personally look at that for a little bit. From the Message Bible, you're blessed when you are at the end of your rope. With less of you, there's more of God. Less of you, more of God. Less of your hard-held belief system. A willingness to allow for the expansiveness. And from Neil Douglas Klotz, blessed are those who realize that breath is their first and last possession. I've got a few more. Let me see if I can bring up a few more of Neil Douglas Klotz. Ripe are those who reside in breath. To them belongs the reign of unity. Blessed are those who realize that breath is their first and last possession. Theirs is the I can of the cosmos. When we come to our lives, to the world, with a soft heart, with a willingness to be teachable and to be open, then we are telling the universe, yes, I can. We're not putting up blinders and curtains. We're allowing for a free flow. Happy and aligned with the one are those who find their home in the breathing. To them belong the inner kingdom and queendom of heaven. I like that one a lot. Happy and aligned with the one are those who find their home in the breathing. To them belong the inner kingdom and queendom of heaven. And blessed are those who are refined in breath. They shall find their ruling principles and ideals guided by God's light, not by our own egoic, stubborn mindset. Now, I'm not talking here, I'm really talking about about loosening the stone, loosening the boulder of the heaviness that we hold, that keeps us separated from other people, that keeps us separated from our own expansion. There is certainly nothing wrong with having your belief systems and refining them as you grow and evolve. But when we get stuck and stubborn, then that just simply doesn't feel good, and it doesn't do anyone any good at all, does it? I want to share with you a story. I questioned whether or not I was going to share this, and it kept coming to me to do it. So, a friend of this shared it. Yeah, have you found that you really don't know what to believe anymore in anything you read?
Yeah.
Right? So this is said that this is a true story that happened to a person, and the way that it's written, it certainly seems that way to me. But again, we come to everything with an open and a discerning mind. The story was shared in a private group. The author gave me permission to share, but asked to remain anonymous. And the person sharing it said, "This actually just happened this evening." And I'm going to take liberty and edit some of it. I live in a blue city in very red Iowa. And I was at the pharmacy picking up some prescriptions. There was a man in front of me, and they were both wearing their political swag, their political propaganda. I personally tried to refrain from that because I don't know what good that does out in the world. I'm just not sure. Maybe it does for some people. But they were both wearing their political statements. And the man turned to her and said, "People like you are a cancer to this country." I mean, I was completely taken aback, and the poor woman at the register froze. I was going to ignore him, but I guess I had it in me to deal with one more piece of stuff. And I looked at him and said, remember, she's standing at the pharmacy getting prescriptions. "My daughter has cancer. Actually, she has it for the second time. I know cancer and what it's done to my girl in all the truly awful ways, and what it's done to me and her dad and her brothers and sisters and my marriage, and pretty much how I now white knuckle my way through most of my days, making deals with God to let me trade places with her. Call me a lunatic or crazy or whatever, but don't call me a cancer. You have no idea who you are talking to." I tried so hard not to, but I started to cry. In the checkout lane of a pharmacy, I fell apart, which made me mad, so I naturally cried harder. I almost felt sorry for him. He went whiter than he already was and barely got himself together to apologize. He was an older man, so he surely has lived long enough to know or to love someone with cancer. He babbled regret, apology, shame, and other words that I barely heard. The cashier handed me a Kleenex, and the man offered to pay for the stuff in my basket. At this point, I'm embarrassed that I lost everything in front of this guy, and I just want to leave. But then I asked him, "Do you think you would have ever said something so unkind and insensitive to a complete stranger 10 years ago? Be honest." He said, "No, and I'm so ashamed that I just did that to you. I wish I could make you see how sorry I am." She said, it's obviously, you have obviously changed from who and what you used to be, which was probably kind and decent. He kind of sighed, looked at me funny, and walked away. And as he walked past the garbage can next to the door, he threw his hat away. The cashier and I just looked at each other, and she said, I can't tell you what she said, but let's just say she said, wow, that'll work. I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to say to you because that was amazing. She let me wait until he clearly left the parking lot. And I paid for my stuff, including the emotional bag of M&Ms I grabbed after blubbering and headed home. This cannot be AI written. This has got to be written by a real person. I may or may not have truly made a bit of difference to this guy, who knows. But we don't get to hurl hate towards people and not be forced to see what it does to a person. And that goes for any of us. And that's how she ends this. She said, it felt good to say, not today, man, not today. She stood up for herself. She stood up for her daughter. She stood up for everyone in a way that this other person could hear it. By just simply saying, is this how you would have behaved 10 years ago? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who are willing to surrender and to become humble and to become teachable. No matter what you believe, no matter, just no matter. For each and every person. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the humble, the teachable, the open-hearted. Blessed are those who are not puffed up with self, but filled up with spirit. Blessed are those who surrender to love, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, not later, but now. There is a great shift that is happening, not only on our planet, but in the universe. I often listen to Pam Gregory Kelly. Let me know about Pam Gregory. She's just this lovely woman. And she had this to say in a recent video. A sense of this very high love frequency energy coming in. Let me back up a little bit. She talks about the chaos that we seem to be experiencing, that we are experiencing. Remember, everything on the ethereal, everything on the eternal God plane, I believe is love. Everything else that is showing up that does not appear to be love is just out of frequency. It's out of balance. And there's a lot of that going on in the eternal, in the capital R reality. I do really feel, and for me, I must believe that there is an order in the universe. And that love is the way through. So Pam Gregory says, There is a sense of this very high love frequency energy coming in, which creates great turbulence in the energetic field. So those low vibration structures that were not born of love, that were not born of integrity, no longer have the energy to sustain themselves. They will burn themselves out. So please, whatever you do, whatever the drama, try not to give your attention to what's collapsing, because it acts as a life support system for what we absolutely don't want more of. Right? What you pay attention to grows. What you focus on expands. So when we stay humbled, when we stay surrendered, when we stay in love, then we allow more of that love, that higher frequency, to vibrate and come through. So really try to be aware that your focus and your attention, she says, as the author Paul Levy says, they are your superpowers, because they are energetic food in the quantum realm. So try and focus on what you want. Let that be your guiding light. Focus is your superpower. Attention, intention, attention again. I think I had another word there. I'm really curious as to what that was. But apparently Spirit is really trying to get my attention. Maybe it's not for me, maybe it's for you. But right, don't we all need to be paying more attention? Start every day with, you wake up and you say, oh, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And then allow yourself that breath of surrender and say, I don't know. I don't know. But God does. So our first thing in the morning is to be in gratitude and in surrender. And from there, we listen. What is it you're focused on? Does that need to shift? Does that need to change? And then set your intention. And then pay attention throughout the day. And so it is.